Felix Fast Lap at COTA, the United States only purpose-built F1 track. It's a 20-turn track that's 3.4 miles long. What car are you taking out there this lap?
So this time we are in the GT4 RS. It's on Nankang 200 treadwear tires. We went up on the sizes, it's 265, 295. Besides that, it's on stock suspension, stock spring rates, stock aero. This can get complicated. The car is on a max alignment. It has had some aftermarket parts that we have installed to it to better adjust the toe, better adjust the camber. So it's on a really good setup, on a setup that I think is at the limit of where you give and you get. So I think it's at a really good setup. We will leave details below with all the exact same setups and all the small stuff. We will first run you guys through a walkthrough of the lap. Jake's gonna be here with me. We'll both be providing you feedback and telling you guys what we look for in a lap, what we like at a certain corner.
And how to get faster.
Let's go. So we're heading up turn 1. This car obviously sounds amazing.
So when are you initiating your braking going into turn 1?
So into turn 1, there's, I hate to say that I don't have a number, but there's a huge bump here, and you could usually gauge yourself before or after the bump. This time on this car, my caster wasn't perfect, so they had a little bit of scrubbing. So if I would have waited after the bump, the car would have just scraped massively on the fender liner. So I was grabbing a little bit of brake before the bump, landing, and grabbing a full brake. The important thing in turn 1, which we've all been guilty for, is crabbing. You want to stay all the way right on the braking zone, look for the apex, then make the widest arch possible through the apex. I see so many people where they're going up the front straight, and then by the time they know it, they have a car width on the right, and that's just going to pinch turn 1. So at turn 1, it's ideal, or it's ideal you get to the apex. This one, I 100% missed it, but it's just a game you play, right? It's a game of grip. You want to brake a little bit later. You want to carry a bit more speed. So I did displace one, but I did not end up using too much of the track out, so this was good. Here, after turn 1, you want to move all the way left as soon as possible and set up the car, or tell the car that you're going right. Super important on these cars is you kind of want to tell the car, or make the car kind of set before you turn the car. Is there anything that you look for here? Because for me, it's a more by feel at COTA, right? Because the curbing, there's no numbers. The curbing is just checkered.
Yeah, there's nothing that sticks out to me. It's also based on the shape of the track, trying to look through that apex. Obviously, it's kind of blind. There's fencing. But as far as I can get my eyes down toward the gantry and then just feeling the limits of the grip.
Got it. I'll turn the car in. Make sure to get to the apex, down to. So here, it'd be controversial to tell you that there's a ton of lines. What I like to do is I don't like to stay super pinched at 3, because then that pinches you through 4, pinches you through 5. So I feel if you can have more of a straight line approach through 3 and 4, but still rotating the car before you get there, is the way to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, you nailed it.
So through 3 and 4, like I said, you want to be rotated before you get to that apex. That way the car is already turning right. As you go into 5, you want to do the same. You want to rotate the car kind of before you get to the apex. And in this case, COTA doesn't have the turtles, so you're able to use a little bit more track.
Just a reminder, as long as you leave an inch of that tire out on the black, you're on the racing circuit.
Exactly.
No asterisk on that lap.
Exactly. The curbing here at COTA, it's kind of abrupt, but you can still use a lot of it. So if the turtles were there, I would 100% just be eating the red and white checkered, because those turtles are known to mess up cars. So what I like to do here is I like to kind of straight line out of 5. I feel like if I don't get to the right side of 5, that I haven't carried enough, or 6, I haven't carried enough speed through 5, right?
Sure.
So if I'm not on the paint, that means I overslowed the previous corner. At least that's how it works on my brain. Here, I like to grab a dab of brake just so that the car settles. And here I play with throttle so I figure out the balance of the car, or what the car is wanting as you're going under the gantry. Here, the line, we've been taught a few different ways, but the way we like it is you want to be as far right as possible. Not on the grass, very close to it.
As close as you can get.
Yes, and you want to make it a late enough apex to where after 6 you can be positioned all the way right. Again.
Parallel to the curbing on the right side. Got it.
Correct. Parallel to the curbing on the right. That way the next corner you make the biggest arch again. 7's a tough one. 7, as you can see from the video, it falls away from you and then it comes back up. So the car is gonna have different behavior through that apex.
A little less responsive as you're going downhill, and then more responsive as you're coming back uphill. So
On the front end.
Exactly.
On 7, I will use some of the curbing, but I will not cut straight through 7. I don't think it's worth it for the suspension that we have. Maybe if the car was on a better suspension setup, it could eat more of it and the car wouldn't get as unsettled. But I think for our stock suspension cars, just eat a little bit of it and the car will be perfect. Here, it's important to have the car positioned because you want to be able to power out of 7 versus having the car not rotated and then you just waiting because whatever you throw away here, you throw away all the way up to 8. So let the car move right.
Straddle 8.
Yes, and as you can see here, this orange car likes to swap ends because you can see me on the steering wheel where the car just feels a little bit light on the rear. A 911 through there would just usually feel pretty planted up there. So here, trail brake the car a little bit on the initial section, grab throttle on the way out. At 9, you want to use that left-hand corner or that left-hand apex. You could use most of that. It's going to upset the car, but in a high horsepower car, you want to use it because you're not pinched on track out. You're not trying to keep the car on.
It is counterintuitive though, right? Because the track's doing so much, you're changing elevation, you're going from a hard right to a hard left. But if you're doing it right and you're straddling both sides, you can basically get full throttle as you leave 8 and keep it for a long time, right?
Correct. Ideally at 8, and don't do this the first time you go out, but ideally at 8, you have wheel in the car as soon as you transition from right to left. That's when you going to full throttle or at least rolling onto the throttle and committing to throttle. If you go from 8 to 9, grab throttle, chop the throttle because you grabbed throttle too early or too much throttle, then
swap ends.
yes, it's going to swap ends. And a lot of people do hit that inside wall.
Max Verstappen spun there last year.
Fact. But we're better than him, so look at us go through 10. Okay, so 10 is so a lot of people have talked to me here through 10 to look at like one of the posts, not the fence post, the power line post at the distance.
So looking out past the track?
Looking out past it, but I honestly have never found anything. 10's always been a just by feel for me.
Sure. And it is blind, so you got to get a good feel.
Yeah. You want to let the car track out, not be too pinched. Heavy braking zone here. A braking zone that goes down, you lose elevation, and then you gain a little bit of elevation. But the car does not feel great as it's gaining elevation. It's just 11's always been super tricky.
And just like you brought up with turn 1, the shape of the track invites you to start cutting over to the left and reducing the radius of that arc you're going to use to get through the corner.
Of course. And my opinion, I'm a early to mid apex guy just because I want to make sure to get to the apex, but 11 would probably benefit from doing a little bit later apex because that way you could carry more straight line speed all the way to 12. So roll throttle, and this is a pretty long back straight, a little bit of bumpy.
Very bumpy.
You can see me in the car just on this back straight, on a GT car, the 150 marker is kind of where you want to be. I think I was braking a little bit early here, but it's just what I felt at that time. 12, super important to wait. Again, wait until you know that that car is ready to start turning in. 11 and 12, super important to get that trail brake almost all the way to the apex. And let's see if I do that. Yep. So trail brake up here to the right. Was almost all the way to the apex, and then I started rolling heavy throttle. We go to 13. So 13 I treat it differently through different cars. This car doesn't turn too well after the apex, so you do have to get a lot of the rotation done on entry.
So late apex is ideal for you.
Late
there
apex
as well.
is ideal here. But if you pinch it like I did a little bit, you can just let that car go wide, let that car go left, and not cause you a problem. Here, 15, always brake earlier than you think, because I find a lot of people just blowing straight out of 15.
And they can't reel it back in for that apex.
You
at
can't,
all.
yeah, just as much as you try, you're not able to. So I'm always conservative to 15. I always brake super early, and for me it's always a mid to early apex. So tracking out from 15 to 16, move the car again, move it all the way left. And at COTA, we have 15A and 15B, or 16A, 16B.
Got it.
You want to displace A, but you want to 100% make sure you get to B. Whenever you first get to COTA, you're going to have an instructor, and the instructor is going to tell you from 15 to 16, move left, brake, like grab a dab of brake. That way the car, you get to front end of the car, you turn the car, then you roll throttle. As you get more comfortable in the car, you have learned.
Lift.
Move the car left, yep, and you get that same front end bite by just lifting. A lot of people, there's two ways to approach the carousel. The way I approach it is I don't hustle the car as hard in, so I kind of turn the car in and try to gain speed midway through it, because I feel like hustling it in, gathering it in the middle sometimes will not work, especially with HPDs where we are trying to piece a clean lap. I don't think it's worth the risk of me hustling it in and maybe just going a bit wide, and then it's a whole lap that I work 16 corners for, and threw it away. And big consequence, right? That carousel.
Big time, big time. It's a tricky corner. It's definitely one where slow is smooth, smooth is fast applies heavily.
Correct, yeah. So carousel, you turn that car in. What I like to do is I like to play with throttle, maybe a little bit too much, but that kind of gets the car squeezing and everything. So you're definitely going to see that in this video. You can see where I'm chopping the throttle to find the balance of the car.
Where are your eyes while you're chopping the throttle?
So as soon as I'm chopping the throttle, I'm feeling the car, but I'm looking at that track out. As soon as I can feel, I can put that car at that track out, or that I'm trying not to put the car at the track out. I want that car to get to the track out through throttle, right? So you want to grab throttle as early as possible, but still not upsetting the balance of the car. I think in December there was still that bump, so sometimes I'll do like a little bit of a chop there, or kind of like a little correction on the wheel. Let the car go wide. 19, hardest corner at the track. The places, at least that's what I think, the places where most people throw away their clean lap. And if they don't end up wrecking there, they wreck at 20 because they just threw it all away, or they threw away 2 tenths at 19. Now they're trying to make it up at 20.
Unfortunately, we've seen it. In this video, you can see carnage. There was a pretty big accident there that day. Be careful, and don't check your lap timers in the carousel.
Say that to yourself, Jay. Say that to yourself. So yes, 19, as the best way I like to do it is as you're moving right, you start applying more brake pressure, because the cars, you don't have as much yaw, or you don't have as much weight transfer as the car is tracking out. So as soon as the car feels more neutral and you're moving the car right, I start grabbing brake, more brake, more brake, and then the release at 19 just has to be super soft, right? Because you're already putting wheel in the car, and if you have a chop of the brake, the car, it's an automatic snap, and more than likely you threw away that lap. So you just have to be smooth here. Make sure to use and straddle that curve. Here, heavy brakes, turn it in, make sure to get to that apex. Turn the car in, mid-apex, roll throttle, and this is a lap of COTA. In this case, the GT4, and we will leave details on the exact setup of this vehicle below.
Thanks for joining us for a Felix Fast Lap. Let us know what track you want to see next, and if you have any criticisms or questions about this lap.